Hello and welcome to the eltSnap training series brought to you by BI Tracks. My name is Alex and I'll be your guide through each training session. Today's topic, an eltSnap overview. Let's get started. eltSnap is a data integration tool inspired by SQL Server integration services that allows you to create projects, packages, connections, and more in order to move the transformed data. If you are familiar with SQL Server Integration Services, or SSIS, I think you will find that the concepts are very similar. Getting started, you will see we have projects, packages, connections, parameters, and environments. This is all the same terminology, but the primary difference here is that it does not use SSIS runtime or build SSIS packages. Instead, you define these objects and our own runtime will execute the extract and load of data and transformations once it arrives in your data warehouse server or staging server or whatever platform your data resides in. We have two projects that are defined here, but you can define as many projects as needed. These projects will all share the connections, parameters, packages, and environments that you define. So these are not isolated to individual projects, but instead are reusable components. Perhaps you've noticed in SSIS environments where many connections are defined redundantly, and instead of having a single repository of connections, you would have dozens or even hundreds of duplicated connections. They are also defined inside of projects instead of separate objects or reusable objects. With eltSnap, you define a connection once and it can be reused throughout the different packages you have. When viewing the connection, you can click Dependencies, and it will show you the projects that are using that connection. This is our framework connection, so as packages execute, we will log information such as runtimes and row counts into this framework. When you create a connection, at the same time, you create parameters for that connection because you know you're going to develop this one environment. Say your dev environment. And then you'll want to promote it to your test environment and ultimately to your production environment. Of the four connections you see here, if we go to the parameters, you will see each of these has a total of 3 parameters that are automatically created. So for the ELT framework, we have a database, provider, and a server parameter. We have a couple of additional parameters we're using, like this force run all parameter. What this tells the runtime is whether or not it should run every package, or if it should check to see if this package has already run a previously terminated run. The goal here is to pick up where you left off. For example, if you have 100 packages and only 50 worked but you don't want to start at number 1, you can change this force run all to 0, and by changing it to 0, you will have what's called intelligent rerunability and will pick up where you left off. You can also define as many parameters as you need, and we have a variety of parameter types to choose from. Now on to packages. We'll look at this particular project, log cleanup, which you can see has 4 packages in it. To configure a package, all you need to do is give it the name of the connection that you want to run this on and the actual query. Now if the query is an expression, you can indicate that by clicking this checkbox, and to the right are all of the parameters you use within the query. You can also indicate if you'd like to return row counts to track not only the runtimes but the number of rows that were affected. We also have a package qualifier concept, which is really a naming scheme. If you look at the package name, it starts with execute SQL, which happens to be the pattern. Then we append the package qualifier that gives it the unique name of the package. In this case, it will delete logs within the eltSnap database. Let's take a look at another project called Metadata Refresh. This one has about 12 packages, and you can tell a lot just by looking at the names, like execute SQL, data flow, for each data flow. Lastly, we'll look at environments. If we wanted to run this in test or prod, we can assign parameter values for that. It can also have a different template group. No framework, framework logging with alert emails, framework logging with alerts, and information emails. You don't change any of the packages or any of the projects. You simply define within the environment. You can also assign different environment variables by going to the Environment Parameter tab and click Add New. For example, in my production environment, I may want my framework server to be something different, like prod SQL 01, or whatever that might happen to be. When you go to execute this particular project, these configurations will be accepted at runtime. And that concludes our eltSnap overview video. Stay tuned for more training videos that dive deeper into the software and its features. Thanks for watching.